Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Building Better Bodies with Deven Brady, the docs, Dr. Roberto DeSena, Dr. Amir Rashidian. And so today there's something important we want to talk about. And we've talked about this in the past where we talked about motivation and why it is that some people, I think they're asking where Brandy is actually. I heard someone just say, where's Brandy? She's not here. She'll be here for the next video. So anyways, motivation, right? What's motivating you and why is it that sometimes you're willing to endure some pain? And think about this, like, you know, higher education is painful, you know, but people endure that because there's something afterwards coming. But for the most part, human tendency is to avoid pain, right? So you really have to go against the grain if you want to train or change your body. And what do people go towards? Not pain, but
pleasure. Purpose, right?
Yeah. So how do you handle that with your clients when they say this is too painful? I don't know if I want to do this.
Right. It's a really, really great question because it's very pertinent to my particular training philosophy. Amongst my colleagues, you know, I'm pretty much on the higher end of intensity. I like to push my clients, and certainly you can speak from personal experience here. You know, into that high level of discomfort. And again, it's not pain. You're always under my supervision as a fitness professional, and my guidance and attention is always on you. But I want to make sure that you're being challenged appropriately, right? You're not just working. And part of real progress is pain. You know, you have to get yourself to that muscular fatigue. The way in which I ask you to perform in high repetitions with good focus and good form, it's going to produce a lot of lactic acid in the muscles as a byproduct as they start to fatigue and exhaust, and it burns, you know, it hurts a lot. Like you said, our body is wired differently. It wants to preserve us and wants to protect us, and with good reason. So a lot of the things in the minds of my clients when I work with them is telling them to stop, to give up, you know, to run away from these, you know, more difficult, discomforting, you know, experiences. So what I have to do is with each new client, depending on their experience, depending on their exposure level to physical exercise, is I have to make them comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I let them understand that pain is part of the process, the right kind of pain. I help them to learn more about the signals that their body is telling them. It's not to feel it as a challenge, you know, and to rise to that challenge and meet that discomfort and chase the burn, which is something I've told you often during our sessions, is it's not something to run away from, but something to move towards, because it means we're really effectively targeting the muscle and going to train it in a way that causes that growth. So pain it's a necessary part of the process, another good P in our discussion today of the main P's. But so what I try to do is slow but sure in my own way introduce all of my clients just to the philosophy of being uncomfortable, feeling themselves being challenged by their bodies, and then fighting through that so that progress can be made.
Agreed. Not to introduce another P, but the pump. I don't feel comfortable unless I feel the pump, is the pain. And I feel like the workout's wasted otherwise. So with me, I know it's a little bit of both. You know, it's the pain and then the pleasure thereafter of the reward, you know, whether that's hitting personal best or, you know, looking a certain way. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, you know, yesterday we were doing chest. And so every once in a while we do this thing where he says, go to failure. But I was refusing to fail. Yeah. And we ended up with 62 repetitions.
And this is not something that I only do with Dr. Amir, but I do with some other clients as well. And you know, there's interesting ways. I'm learning a lot more. I'm learning, you're learning. It's a wonderful process, and I learn more about people, and I'm starting to find clever ways to trick people into doing better than they thought they could. Because I think one of the things that I find is if I, as the professional, put a number of repetitions in your head, for example, I think a lot of times that you'll set the bar there. Yeah. You know, you'll get comfortable with that number. If I said, hey, you know, Dr. Roberto, you did 8 reps of this weight last week, try for 10 this week. Your body could give you 12, you know, but the fact that I said go for 10, you'll go for 10 and you'll be content stopping at 10. So whereas what I'm trying to do with Dr. Amir, for example, is there's a new philosophy of just almost keeping his best a mystery. Like, so obviously if he remembers what it is, then that's one thing. But I basically would give him an idea of like, you just need to do much better than you did last week. So it's open-ended, right? I'm not trying to put him in any box of saying beat it by 1, beat it by 2, but rather do your very best, which is means different things to different people.
Right.
And, you know, in almost all of those cases, you know, Dr. Amir continues to surprise me in the ability to really go beyond the limitations he had set for himself the week prior. And with this one particular exercise he was talking about, he just kept going and just didn't stop. I mean, certainly there was, obviously exhaustion was big, there was form breakdown, there was all of these things, but I was right there, and the fact that your muscles could just keep going and the motor neurons were still firing and you were still getting some level of activation out of your chest, and the key area we were focusing on into reps 40, 50 plus was pretty incredible. So yeah, it speaks to the fact of dealing with pain you know, head on, and knowing that you can get through it and break through that, and on the end of that is progress.
Yeah, and then there's the pain of soreness afterwards. A lot of times, especially someone who's not used to training at an intense level, the first or second time they're out there doing that, the next day they may not be able to lift their arm or move, and I think they need to be really we need to describe this to them. I don't want to say warn them, but we need to say, listen, this is a good thing. It's part of it. Yeah. And you're going to get used to it, and that's how you adapt.
Yeah, and it's, there are people that react differently. I mean, muscle soreness, in my humble opinion, in the years that I've spent in this field, studying, talking, you know, training myself, training with others, I do believe that effective muscle growth is achieved by achieving that soreness. The soreness is the body's way of telling us we have done enough good, productive muscular damage to the fascia such that it needs to be rebuilt bigger, stronger. So that soreness is your body telling you, okay, we need to rest, we need to recover. We're rebuilding muscle tissue, actively rebuilding and repairing this muscle tissue in order to get you bigger and stronger, so that the next time you subject yourself to that same amount of stress, we will be better able to cope with that stress, right? It's your body's ability to adapt. So when people come to me and they say, Deven, I don't know, I don't want to be sore, or I really don't like the soreness, like, it's something that comes with effective training, because oftentimes those same people that don't like being sore are also not happy with the way they look or the shape they're in, and they want to see significant change, but they don't necessarily, they're not committed to the price that costs, and that is a lot of hard work and stimulating the muscle in the right way that's going to be sore. And yes, if you have a job where you're on your feet and you're moving after leg day, that's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. You know, if you have jobs where you're working with your hands a lot, or typing, or moving, or gathering, or stocking, you know, if you do a shoulder day, arm day, be prepared for a tough day at the office. But I mean, that's what it takes. That's the price we pay for progress.
The first day I benched, I remember the next day I couldn't button my pants, button my shirt because it hurt my chest. I could not get my arms to move. So are you able to pick up pretty early on what motivates people between the two? Yeah. And how do you implement that, you know?
Yeah, so I'll use a real life example of a young lady who I've been working with. She's one of my newest clients. She's 23 years old. She's pretty deconditioned, so she's lived a life that's not high in physical activity up to this point. And kudos, I'm super proud of her. She just basically came into me and said, look, I need help. Like, I'm tired of looking a certain way. I really have an ideal me that I can see in my mind that I want to be. And based on where she was and her physical composition and what she was comfortable with, I basically looked at her and I sat her down as part of our consultation. I said, look, this is going to be a long road, and it's going to be an uphill battle, and it's going to be a challenge. No part of this is going to be easy, but I guarantee you, if you stick with it and you fight through it and you challenge yourself and you persevere, that person that you're talking about, that person that you see, will be there for you at the end of this journey. And she was on board. You know, it's not like I don't want to say that she bought in, because I'm not necessarily selling anything. I'm just telling her the truth. There are the people that can stick with it, fight through the pain, and get to the end, and there's those people that can't. And for her, That's what she was weighing that. The pleasure of getting to that place I want to be outweighs the pain of this arduous process right now of putting in the sweat equity, putting in the pain and the hours. And our first few sessions have been wonderful. And she texts me sometimes and tells me how much she's displeased with me at any given moment based on how hard our session was. I told her, I said she can curse me as much as she needs to, but at the end of the day, she'll thank me. Weeks from now, months from now, she'll thank me, and then she understands. And so certainly she understands that pain is part of this process, and for her, the goal is worth it. The price is worth the pain.
Right. I mean, ultimately, life is a series of choices.
Yeah.
And the outcome is the byproduct of every one of those choices accumulated on top of each other and over time. That's the formula, which is why you're saying you got to commit long term. Short term, you might as well go have plastic surgery, but I promise you, you're not going to be happy, because part of the transformation is who you become. That person is still in there. It's like, what was it Leonardo or Michelangelo or one of them who said, I just have to chip off the bad parts. And then that statue was always in there, in that marble. And it's the same thing here. But part of that chipping off is the transformation that happens between your ears. Is up here. It's who you become. It's the reason someone says, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest.
That's right.
It's because the person who makes it to the top overcame certain challenges that make them different. Now when they come down and they face a challenge that before would make them cry, they're like, that's nothing. You should have seen what I went through over there.
Absolutely.
You should have seen what Deven did to me yesterday.
and I guess that the final point that I will close on is one of the things I get often, both in myself, the way I approach my own training and the way I approach training with my clients, is people say, what about balance? What about balance? We're talking about weighing pain versus pleasure versus progress versus outcome and what that means to each individual. And at the end of the day, the one thing that I've always answered to those people, I tend to be an all or nothing person. When I commit myself to a goal, any goal, I tend to pursue it exhaustively with everything I possibly can. But for some people, that idea throws them off a little bit. They're like, what about balance? What about balance? My answer to them is, in any endeavor in life, moderate pursuit yields moderate results. Okay, so a lot of people expect if you can just have this balance, but then you're always just going to fall into the outcome that you want at the end. Michael Jordan didn't have balance in his life with basketball. Muhammad Ali didn't have balance in his life with boxing. If you want to be truly extraordinary at anything, business, relationships, friendships, community leadership, physical goals, regardless of what it is, I challenge you to truly find out what your limit is, find out what your ceiling is, find out how much you can possibly give to devotion to that goal, how much motivation, time, energy, focus, spiritualism, emotional, physical, everything you can possibly give. Test out what your own limits are and see how that helps you advance towards that goal. And then if you need to back off from there, back off. But if you're just constantly going up and down on this ebb and flow, that's a really easy way to get kind of locked into this content mediocrity where you just never get too high and never get too low, and then progress is never really made.
It's like saying I got to balance that organic salad I had with a cheeseburger. That's balance, right? 50% of the time I'm going to eat clean. 50% of the time I'm going to eat really dirty because I got to balance it.
And then I'm going to wonder why I look the exact same 2 years from now. You're not going up, you're not going down. Exactly. So that's my challenge to the viewers watching this video is any goal you have, go full tilt. I mean, as much as you possibly can, trying to find out where your true limits are, your true threshold are, and see how much progress you could possibly make towards that goal. And then if you need to find ways to work, if you're like, okay, I really did that, I'm surprised, I'm proud of myself, but maybe there's a little bit more that I'm missing as a result, work that in then. But pursue everything, to the fullest and see where that gets you.
One last analogy is, do you want your spouse to be 100% committed to you? Or do you want them to be 50% committed to you? Would you ever say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to marry me? And if it's a 6 or a 7, you're like, okay, I'll work with it.
Exactly.
100%. Commit and go, Commit and go. Don't look back. Burn the bridges. move forward, believe in your dreams, stay on your purpose, get it done. And it starts with the first step of walking into the gym and doing what?
Yeah, you can come by One Lifestyle Frederick over next to the Common Market on Route 85 and just say, mention the videos, mention me, mention any of the docs, mention Mid-Atlantic Chiropractic, and you basically get a free 7-day pass. So it's a week to use the gym, no commitment, no money down, no contract. Just use all of our resources at your disposal. Talk to me, pick my brain, see how I can help you achieve any goals you may have.
We'll see you there.
Take care.